What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Heel Deal podcast. You're back, as always, with your hosts, Ben and Zach. Middle of winter break, Zach, how are you holding up being away from Chapel Hill?
Yeah, good man. I've had a good first third of the break. I hope you have. Merry Christmas to everybody who's listening to this over the holiday week. And we're looking forward to getting back to talking some UNC sports with you guys. It feels like it's been a while since the last time we recorded, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for us, like, I've been bored. I don't know about you, but there's been so many sports on TV. It's been pretty great. Of course, we've had some Carolina basketball to watch. We've got some football to watch. We're playing, after Christmas for the first time in a few years, which is awesome. How are you feeling about this game coming up, Zach?
Yeah, Temple will be interesting. They have a little bit of a better record than we do, but the conference is a little bit kind of puts that in perspective a little bit. I don't think that really means too much. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to talking about it. I think it'll be a good matchup, and it'll be a good new sign to see us back playing in December again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as this episode's concerned, we're going to go through the rundown as always, go straight into basketball. We're going to recap the last three games against Gonzaga, Wofford, and UCLA, and then we're going to go straight into the bulk of the episode, which is going to be a preview of the Tar Heels bowl game against Temple, the Military Bowl, which is going to be a fantastic game. Super excited for that. We're not going to get too into the nitty gritty with we have a couple games before ACC play for men's basketball. I think it's Yale and someone else. But we will be back before the 4th, which is when we start ACC play, and we'll have an episode previewing all of the big ACC games. So that's going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only one we have left now before that opener with the ACC play is Yale. I think that's the only one. I
Okay.
don't I don't think there's two, but I may be wrong. But yeah, but nonetheless, we're getting close to it. We got just a little bit now until we start getting into the heart of the season.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm super, super excited. So let's go straight into the rundown. No need to waste any time. We have women's basketball, which is really the only sport besides men's basketball that's going on right now.
Yeah.
They were off to a great start. I think they were 8-0, but they dropped their game against Alabama. It was a close one, 83-77. That was in Tuscaloosa, so it's probably a hostile environment. A little bit troublesome since Alabama's really the first good team that they've faced so far. But the women kept it close. They bounced back. Got another one in the win column against UNCW 2 days ago on Friday. They really killed them, 85-45. So this is still a really good team. I think it's one of the better women's basketball teams we've had in a while. So pretty excited to see that.
Yeah, it's good for them, and they've had a better start than the men have. And I'm hoping that they can keep it going. This new coach we have it looks like the real deal. So I'm excited about what they can do in the ACC play.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So before we hop into the basketball recap, just a couple house cleaning things. If you guys notice any like audio quality differences than our normal show, it's because Zach's back home. I'm still in the Durham Chapel Hill area, so we're going over Skype. If you guys have been listening for a while, we did that a bunch over the summer. So just bear with us there. And then Zach, I know I told you before, but there's something in the air up here, and so I might be sniffling a little bit, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. It happens this time of year. But yeah, if there's any audio issues, guys, just bear with us. And as far as the next podcast after this one that we will, I assume, release on the 23rd, we're recording it on the 22nd. We will probably get that out to you guys in about 2 weeks. So I think we're going to record either a few days after New Year's Day or around New Year's Day or something, and we'll do kind of a ACC basketball preview at that point, and also recap the football game that we have coming up on the 27th. So that'll be when you can expect that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to pinpoint exactly what day, but it'll be
Right.
before ACC play starts, so just keep that in mind. But why don't we hop straight into UNC basketball, man? We had that 3-game stretch, which we talked about last or 2 weeks ago when we last recorded. It would have been best case scenario that we went 2-1. We ended up going 1-2. We lost the game we thought we were going to lose. We lost against Gonzaga. We won the game we thought we were going to win against UCLA, but then we went and dropped the game against Wofford. That game was it was tough to watch. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that one was a tough one, and Wofford is a team that has kind of built over the past few years. They had Fletcher McGee, who I think set the record in the NCAA for most threes made. But this was definitely a game that we should have won. I think that this is this loss is mostly due to the fact that the team was kind of shocked when they heard the news. I think it was Saturday morning about Cole and the initial diagnosis about how he would be out indefinitely. This was, of course, before we then heard a few days later that he would be out for 6 to 8 weeks. But at the time, no one knew anything about what was going on, and Leakey was also out for that game. So I think that game was kind of a product of having to adjust the rotation within like 24 hours before tip,
Mm-hmm.
and it just they just weren't ready for it. And Wofford came out and hit some threes and such, and weren't afraid of us. So that you add all those things together, and you have an upset loss at home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was tough. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, we might as well start with the Gonzaga game. Cole missed that game, right? I'm not misremembering that.
Yeah, so Wofford was first, and then we played Gonzaga this past Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I got the order of that mixed up then. That's my bad.
that's all good. Yeah, but nonetheless, yeah, Cole did miss that game.
Gosh, yeah, no, I remember you texted me the morning of that game with the news about Leaky and Cole both missing it, and I just like my heart dropped a little bit. We knew that this
Yeah.
team just centered around Cole Anthony, and he was kind of the heart of our offense, what little offense we had in these first few games, right? So him knowing that he was going to miss some time, and just at that point the news was just he was going to miss like an indefinite period, which is awful. You don't know if he has a sore knee or if he has a torn ACL. That was just a terrible couple of days before we found out the extent of the injury.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's still, to be honest with you, Ben, I think it's still kind of up in the air a little bit. I don't want to say that I'm fully confident that this injury that he has, that I don't want to say popped up out of nowhere, but seemed to have it seems like it kind of popped up out of nowhere. I don't really know if it's all 100% exactly what we've been reported it to be. And what I mean by that is I hope that this is not a situation where he is kind of not tanking out individually, but I hope it's not a situation where he's looking at the season and he's thinking about his NBA potential, and he's sort of
Hold
kind
on,
of.
I don't know if you could hear that. I had an ad autoplay, so I apologize if anyone heard that.
Yeah,
Keep
I
going,
didn't
Jeff.
hear. I didn't hear it, but yes, but I mean, I'm unsure about Cole and this injury being something that is really he's want to fight to get back, and that he's really going to try his best to get back on the 6 week part of the injury, or if this is something that it could keep him out for the rest of the year if we don't have a good season, because I don't think he would want to come back and risk any further injury if he didn't think we could compete for anything. And to be honest with you, I can't blame him. So I'm a little curious to see how this all plays out. I don't really know if what we know right now is exactly the entire story.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. He really is. Even if he didn't play the rest of the season, I imagine he is still a lottery pick, pretty easy,
Yeah, I
especially
think
what
he
he
is.
showed in the first few games. So it's like if it was something, if he could come back for like the last few games, I wouldn't blame him for sitting out. But right now, it was 4 to 6 weeks when he initially got the surgery. So that still leaves the vast majority of the ACC regular season play, then obviously the ACC tournament, and then assuming we make it, which is kind of a bold assumption at this point, he would still have the NCAA tournament. So there's still a lot of game to play. But I agree, it's not. Hopefully, we haven't seen the last of Cole Anthony as a Tar Heel, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't shock me. Is
And
what I'm
his
saying.
knee procedure, Ben, was an arthroscopic knee procedure. So those knee injuries can go multiple different ways. But from what I've heard, it usually ends up being the closer to the 6 to 8 week time period, the 8 week period instead of the 6 weeks, and sometimes it even takes a little longer than that. So in all honesty, I think the only way we see Cole back this year, and I've thought a lot about this, but this is kind of my prediction about his situation. I think if we have a good January, and we're competing for like middle of the road in the ACC, and it looks like if we can maybe win a game we're not supposed to or something in February, maybe we beat Virginia when they come to Chapel Hill, something like that. If something like that were to happen, we get into the tournament, or maybe if we have a good ACC tournament, we can get into the big tournament. Something like that where we're in a position where we can do something. I think maybe the best case scenario, he comes back right at late January, early February. I don't really think we see him any time before then, and I don't think he comes back at all if we have a really bad January campaign and he has to make that decision about, okay, is it worth it for me to go out there and really bust it and do what I'm going to have to do more than likely to get us to get a bid of any kind for the tournament, where that could also mean I could lose out on millions of dollars in the lottery. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough one. Fortunately for us and for our chances of making the NCAA tournament, the first half of our ACC regular season play is fairly easy. A lot of the best teams are kind of backloaded, which is good. If we were to get Cole Anthony back right around the beginning of February, I mean, we don't play a ranked team. This is, as of right now, we don't play a team that's ranked until we play number 19 Florida State on the 3rd of February. I'm just gonna like spit out our schedule right now. We got Yale, obviously, and then ACC play starts. So then we have Georgia Tech, Pitt, Clemson, Pitt again, Virginia Tech, who is a good team. They're not ranked right now. Then Miami, NC State, Boston College. That's a ton of games against teams that aren't ranked right now. If we can just stay afloat in the conference before we then play Florida State, Duke, Virginia, Louisville, Duke again, like those are all really tough games, and they all fall on that back half of the season. I think we could be okay, but before we get too deep into that, we're obviously going to dedicate a lot of this episode to football, but what have you seen from the team right now, missing Cole Anthony, that gives you some hope, Zach?
Well, we talked about not the Gonzaga game, the Wofford game, and I mentioned how I thought it was kind of a shell shock for him, and it was kind of playing catch up on what we were going to do during that game. But when we got out to Gonzaga, Ben, I don't know how you felt about it watching that game. I didn't think we were going to win, and I knew it was going to be a complete long shot for us to even compete. But I got to say, I am very, very I was pleasantly surprised by how the team came out against Gonzaga and actually had some aggression to their offense.
No, I mean, we looked infinitely better against Gonzaga than we did against Ohio State. Ohio State's definitely been the low point of the season where we just looked terrible in every single regard. Gonzaga was a competitive game, even though, we had the lead a little bit like at the beginning of the game, but starting about 10 minutes into the first half, it was all Gonzaga. The Tar Heels still showed some fight. Wofford was a little bit tough, and then of course UCLA played well. But the big surprise for me has been the play of Jeremiah Francis, and then more recently Anthony Harris. So these two freshmen who both were injured at one point during the recruitment process. Jeremiah Francis, he hadn't played a basketball game in about 2 years, and then Anthony Harris tore his ACL his senior season of high school. Both these guys came out and played really good games. Jeremiah Francis, especially, man, he had like a little, I think, what game was it against? I think it was against Gonzaga, where he had the ball in the corner, and he just dribbled a little bit and step back and hit a three. Man, looked a lot like Cole Anthony there. He has been like exceeding my expectations personally. I didn't know if we'd really see him at all this season.
Right, and I'll be honest with you here, Ben. I thought Jeremiah Francis was gonna kind of turn into the team mascot, kind of like what Sterling Manley has been, in the sense that he never really dresses out, that he's always got a nagging injury and something like that, and we never really see him. But I gotta sit here and say I am proudly corrected on that, because he has actually given us a little bit of a spark. And he's driven the basket, he's shot decent. You mentioned the three he had against Gonzaga. I think he's played well. He had a really good dish off, I think it was to Garrison, for a dunk yesterday, and when he drew a double in it, it looked like a very good offensive play. It caught my eye. So I mean, I'm excited for him, and especially Anthony. The second half he had yesterday, I've always wanted to see what he looked like. I don't know if you remember, but when he was out for those first games when we were playing at home against Elon and such, I was looking at him and I was thinking, I really want to see this guy play, because he was the one that committed right after Cole did, and he was a big surprise in a way that we got him so quickly. And we were thinking that the reason we did get him was because Cole committed, and all that can be what it is. But he, I wanted to see what he looked like. I thought he could be a good player, and it looks like we're going to have something with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these two are point guards, or guards, that we're going to have for 3 or 4 years. So they're going to be in the Roy Williams system, and they might turn into, like a Theo Pinson, Joel Berry type duo by the end of their stints in Chapel Hill. So I'm really excited. These are the kind of guys that are going to have to keep our team afloat. They're kind of some of the only guys on this team that are actually consistently finding and making their own shots. But we'll see. We'll see if they can keep that up. So
Yeah, but Ben, sorry, before we move to football, I wanted to
yeah,
kind of say one little final thing on the basketball team, and I think this is kind of the psychological element of how we've seemed to play better the past two games, even though the competition was better than it was against Wofford. I think it's kind of set into the team now that we can't wait for Cole to do everything, and we can't wait for him to be the one that leads us. I think in the Wofford game we were still shocked. And then by Gonzaga, Roy probably set him down, and the team probably set itself down and said, guys, listen, we know what we have now. We don't know if we're getting Cole back at all. We don't really know any of that. But we know we have everybody in this locker room that's sitting here right now. And if we go out there and bust our butt with this group right here, and we know that this is what we're going to have, then we can go out and we can do something. We just have to go out and stop, hoping for something to come save us. This is it. And I think once you adopt that mindset, you can go out and you can do something that doesn't seem like I guess you're capable of a week ago or even 2 weeks ago. And it reminds me of, I think it was the 13-14 season where PJ Harrison was suspended, and we were supposed to have a really, really good team that year. And for the first half of the year, or first part of the year rather, the team looked kind of how it did in the first part of this year, where it was inconsistent. We couldn't really do much. Marcus Page was the only person on the team that could hit a three in any situation. So it looked really, really bad. And then once we figured out that PJ was not coming back, it's almost like a switch was flipped. And the team was like, all right, this is all we've got. We're not getting anything else. We got to stop feeling sorry for ourselves and show some mental toughness. And we got to go out there and play like we're the name on our jersey. And they ended up having a really good year. They upset Duke at home that year when they were unranked. And Duke was like fifth coming into that game. So just an example of a team that kind of is going through a similar situation that we are right now, where they've just got to sit down and say, this is what we've got. Let's look at ourselves in the mirror and let's just go after and do what we can with what we have and stop hoping for something to come help us.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. If Cole Anthony was out for, 1, 2, 3 games, you don't really have to worry about it. But this is a team that's got to find a new identity. So, that was well said, Zach. But why don't we move into some football? We finally have a bowl game to look forward to, the Military Bowl against Temple, Zach. So talk to me a little bit about Temple. What are some things that stand out with this team?
Yeah, well, they're from the American Athletic Conference, and they are a team that is 8-4 this year. They have played a schedule that I would say is definitely weaker than ours, but nonetheless, they have won 8 games, so you have to respect their success. They finished third in the conference. They're a team that's interesting enough. They play at the Philadelphia Eagles football stadium. So they don't have their own. They're similar to University of Southern Florida or South Florida, who plays at the Buccaneers Stadium. So they have a pretty big home field. They don't necessarily fill it up, but yeah, I thought that was a cool little fun fact about them. But yeah, this is a team that it'll be a competitive game, Ben. We can talk about offense, defense specifically, but yeah, overall, I think this will be a good football game. This team, like I said, doesn't have as good of a schedule as us, but I think that they'll compete.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team is absolutely no slouch. They beat Maryland early on in the season. They have wins against Memphis, some other programs, wins against South Florida, but they've lost games against Cincinnati most recently. They lost games against SMU. So they don't play a weak schedule, which is when I heard we were playing Temple, I'm like, oh, yeah, who have they played in the ACC or the AAC? I'm sorry.
They don't
really know it's a good team.
Yeah, they don't play a weak schedule. I don't want to be misconstrued there, but they don't play an ACC schedule. The fact that South Florida and Tulane and teams like that are your conference games is a little different. But interesting enough though, when they did play an ACC team, they beat Georgia Tech 24-2. That was the game that Georgia Tech played right before we played them. And I remember talking about how Georgia Tech had a bye week and all this time to get their offense better, and then they went to Temple and then scored 2 points, which was a safety. So they ended up laying a goose egg in their game after the bye. But yeah, anyway, I mean, you said it. They've competed with pretty much everyone on their schedule. They got blown out by UCF in an offensive, just explosion by UCF in the middle or late October. But both of the ranked teams as of right now that they've played, which are Cincinnati, and it looks as if right now Memphis is still ranked too. They beat Memphis by 2 points, which is, I think Memphis has a pretty good bowl game coming up, and then Cincinnati, they Cincinnati was 10-1 at the time that they played them, and they only got beat by 2 points. So
Yeah, it was a low-scoring game,
yeah,
15-13.
yeah, you got to give them credit.
No, absolutely. So let's talk some X's and O's on our offensive side of the ball. So Temple's defense. Is there anything particular to Temple that we need to keep an eye on?
Well, Temple's defense is a base one gap defense 4-3, but they sub out the will linebacker a lot for a nickel look. Their will backer in the 4-3, which is one of the outside linebackers, is kind of a rover player, similar to what Virginia Tech ran a lot. It's not the same scheme as Virginia Tech runs, but it's same kind of personnel in the sense that they have that rover player that kind of makes it into a 4-2-5, but it is also sort of just a 4-3 because he kind of plays a backer position. He doesn't really play deep a lot. He's not really a pass responsible player. But I mean, it's a pretty, standard looking defense. They don't run a lot of exotic blitzes and such, kind of like how Virginia did or Virginia Tech did or anything like that. They will blitz on third down. It looks a lot like from what the film I've watched, but overall they don't do anything too crazy on defense.
Okay, I mean that sounds good for us. Do you think our offense matches up well against them, the style of game or the style of football we play?
Yeah, I think it really does, Ben. And it's one thing I wanted to talk about. It kind of goes to the X and O's of Temple's defense too. Is a lot of what they do as far as coverage is concerned is they run a lot of matchup zone. And for those of you guys who are not really familiar with exactly what that means, a matchup zone typically looks like man coverage from the line of scrimmage, from the sense that sometimes the player will follow the receiver in motion, sometimes they won't. It depends on what they're trying to do game plan wise and what kind of look they're trying to disguise or whatnot. But at the end of the day, once the ball is snapped, the receiver, whatever receiver comes into a particular player's zone, that player is then responsible for that receiver. So it looks like it's a zone coverage, but it turns to man once the receiver gets into the zone, and then they follow them from then out. So it's kind of a little bit of both, but it looks like man, and then you can disguise it in different ways to make it look like zone. It can be tough to diagnose, but at the end of the day, whoever goes to that zone is going to be the one that gets, like the receiver that goes to the player's zone, that player's then going to cover that person. And the point of all that, I know that was a rambling situation right there. I apologize. But the point is that with our speed at receiver, I think that the matchup zone is very tough to play against with a team that has speed at receiver like we do. I think if corners and safeties on their team try to drop back and let us come to them, as it seems like they did against pretty much everyone I watched them play against with the matchup zone looks, I think we can get ahead of steam and we can burn by some people. And we can run some crossing routes and such to get their zones confused a little bit, maybe force some miscommunications in their secondary, and we can get some big plays.
Yeah, I mean that's been the bread and butter for us. So I guess we'll stick to our guns and we'll see Sam Howell slinging the rock during this game. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, he'll have a big day. I haven't seen anything out of Temple that makes me think he's not going to have a big day. A lot with the coverage stuff I've talked about. And then also, I think we're going to be able to run the football on this team, especially out of our spread looks. I don't think they do a good job defending the run, especially if you spread them out a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to be able to do that too. I think we'll have a balanced attack. I think the offense has a big day.
Good. I mean, on a list of like things I'm worried about when our football team plays, the offense is down near the bottom of this list. It's the defense that I'm a little concerned about. It's the defense that has been keeping other teams in the game with us. So let's talk about their offense against our defense. I know They've had the same starter all season, which seems to be like rare for the teams that we've played, especially in the latter half of the season. We've seen some like quarterback changes and stuff like that, but no, they have Anthony Russo, who's had a pretty good season. It's funny, he and Sam Howell have exactly the same number of completions at 234.
Wow, yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. But Sam Howell's a little more accurate, throws the ball for more yards, has more touchdowns and fewer interceptions. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the weapons that Temple has?
Well, their leading rusher is Ramon Davis. That's their running back. He's at 900 yards on the year. They have multiple guys that run the ball, though. They also have Jager Gardner, who also has 141 attempts on the year for over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Those are the two main rushers, those two running backs. It's kind of a double-headed snake, if you will. The quarterback Russo, he will not, or Russo, however you want to pronounce it, he will not run too much. I don't think he's really a guy who we need to worry about when it comes to running the football. Although they do run out of a pistol offense, which traditionally has required the quarterback to be a good runner in order for it to work. They don't really do a lot of that, which kind of surprised me. I was expecting when I saw them line up in pistol that they were going to have a quarterback that could really keep it on some option looks, and that's not really their game. They run the two running backs. A lot of times they're in the game at the same time, so you have to be ready to defend both of them in the same play. They line them up behind the quarterback, beside the quarterback, move them around a little bit. They have some tight ends that rotate into. The receivers are, kind of mixed around too. They move a lot of guys around, so it's a tough offense to match up with.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't sound too good for us. I know we do have some inexperience with all the new guys who have had to come in, fill in for injuries. Do you think we have enough on defense to try and stifle this offense?
Yeah, I do. I don't think this will be a situation where they're scoring into the 30s or 40s on us. I mean, I think they could definitely score into the 20s if we don't execute our defensive play calls as good as we can. But I think we've seen offenses like this a little bit throughout the season. I think we saw it a little bit with Virginia Tech, especially whenever they played Ryan Willis and they played Hendon Hooker. We didn't see it as much when they brought that huge guy in at the end that just basically ran power at us. But then Georgia Tech also ran a similar look too. They ran a little bit of pistol as well. It wasn't their entire thing, but they did have some pistol looks in there. So I think we've seen this type of offense trickled into other opponents this year. We haven't seen someone run it as much as Temple does because it's their base offensive formation. But yeah, I mean, I think the defense will come to play. I don't think this offense is a unit that is going to be impossible for us to stop. And we've played, running backs that have given us trouble too this year. I think we're seasoned in this kind of personnel matchup.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, at the end of the day, Tar Heels are gonna Tar Heel. We've just kept teams in it this entire season. It's led to some exciting games, some that we've won, some that we've lost. How, on the whole, are you feeling about this? Do you think we have what it takes to get a bowl victory?
Yeah, I do. I knew as soon as I found out that Temple was who we were playing,
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, I was like, all right, we should get this one. Now, to be fair, I did not know anything about them. I didn't know anything other than the conference they played in, which is kind of what I was going off of with that prediction. I was thinking that their conference was probably more of to credit why they won 6 games or 8 games and got a bowl as opposed to really their play. But then again, they are a good team. You talked about how we've been the cardiac Tar Heels all year in the sense that we've brought down to the wire and we've given our fans a lot of stress to say the least. But yeah, I mean this team I think is a team we can beat. I think if we had played them throughout the season with our ACC opponents, we would have gotten over them pretty good. And I think we'll go out and we'll perform well on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ESPN's Football Power Index agrees with you. They give us a 70% chance of winning, which is pretty significant. I think the spread right now is us by 5 points. So Vegas has the Tar Heels, ESPN has the Tar Heels. We'll just have to see if the Tar Heels have the Tar Heels, and if they can finish the season above 500 in Mack Brown's first year back. That would be amazing, and that would be some fantastic momentum going into the next year, right?
Yeah, it would. It would. We've got some big recruits coming. It's exciting. Obviously we missed out on Trenton Simpson, which was very upsetting. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the future. We've talked a little bit about that, Ben, and how we've got pretty much the entire offense coming back. A lot of the defense is coming back, except for some key players, which we have big time recruits coming in to try to help fill those gaps. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's looking up for us. I think we go out there on Friday and we play really well. I think the offense rolls. And I think the defense may have some trouble early stopping their dual-headed running attack and maybe some of their top receivers. But overall, I think we're the better team here, and I think that it would be an upset if we lost.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's going to be a fantastic game. I'm super excited for it. And that just about wraps up our time. But before we end it, Zach, as always, you got to finish the sentence here. Tar Heels will win if we do what?
We just, I guess, play our game. I don't want to have any kind of crazy prediction here about what we need to do with one particular type of play or formation or something. I think we just go out and play our game. I think playing our game here is enough to win this game. If they come out on offense and start moving the ball well, we may have to change some things up defensively. But offensively, I think we just do what we've done all year. And I think we hang a lot of points on them, more than what they're able to match.
Awesome. Well, you can give me that score prediction, Zach. Exactly how many points are we about to hang on them?
I got Tar Heels 41-27.
All right. That would make for one interesting bowl game. Very exciting. I think honestly, like I'm about similar. I want to go like 35 to 28. I think it's going to be a little closer, but I do think that we're the more talented team, and I do think that this team's going to be motivated to get Mack that 7th win on the season. But Zach, I'm excited. I know you're excited. This is going to be a great game, right? A breath of fresh air after 2 very disappointing seasons.
Yeah, and guys, Ben and I have had a lot of fun this football season doing these previews for you guys. We appreciate some of the feedback we've gotten about the football previews, and it's been a ride. We predicted us to do about what we've done, Ben. We predicted about 6-6 or 7-6 or something like that. So it's been up and down. It's all the games have been fun to watch. We've enjoyed talking about them with you, and we're hoping to finish out this exciting year with a win.
Yeah, absolutely. My thoughts exactly. So, as always, it's been your host, Ben and Zach at the Heel Deal podcast. This was a great one, guys. Again, we'll have another episode before ACC play starts for basketball, probably, like the 2nd or 3rd of January. But, for all you guys and girls, have a wonderful holiday season. Have a good new year. And, Zach, why don't you close us out here?
Yep. Like Ben said, we'll record sometime in the new year. We hope you guys have a great week and enjoy time with your family and friends, and hope everybody gets the presents they want and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get into basketball and all that stuff. So we'll talk to you guys at the beginning of the month. And in the meantime, as always, Ben, go to hell, Duke.